Hey there. Did you ever hear about Andrew Jackson? He was a president of the US a long time ago. He had this wild thought. He believed that if folks realized our money and banking system wasn't fair, they'd start a revolution the next day. And get this, he said this way before people even knew about something called the Federal Reserve, or the Fed. Pretty interesting, right? Since the Fed started, it seems like the banking system helps rich people more. The weirdest part? Most people don't really understand how it all works. They don't know how money is made or what the Fed does. So, just a few people get the good stuff, and the rest of us are left wondering what's going on. And guess who else had something to say about this? Henry Ford, the guy who made cars famous. He thought it was better for most of us not to know the truth. He said if we all knew what was really happening, we'd be in a revolution super fast. So, what's the big secret the banks are keeping? What don't they want you to know, and how can you use this info? If you're curious and want to learn more, stay with me until the end. Let's uncover these secrets together. The making and managing of money. All right, here's something that might surprise you. Almost all the money we use is actually debt. Yep, you heard that right. Sounds crazy, but it's true. Here's how it goes. When our government needs cash, they don't just make it. Instead, they borrow from a place called the Federal Reserve, and that's where debt starts. This money they borrow, with a little extra charge called interest, helps run our country's economy. But wait, where does the Federal Reserve get all this money? Well, they pretty much create it out of thin air, by printing new bills or just adding numbers in a computer. So every dollar bill in your wallet is sort of like an IOU note in this big money game. It's not just for buying snacks or toys. It's a promise linked to how our country's money system works. Now think about this. The money isn't backed by gold or anything solid. It all depends on how much we trust the government and how good our economy is doing. Interesting, huh? Or maybe a bit worrying. But this is how our financial world keeps going. It impacts everything from prices at the store to the interest on your savings. Banks. They're not looking out for you. Banks are a must-have, but don't get it twisted. They're not looking out for your wallet. This might be tough to hear, but it's really important to get. Here's the deal. Banks are all about making money, and their number one goal is to keep their shareholders smiling. Thinking they'll help you become rich or financially free. Not really their thing. They're more into selling stuff and services that put money in their pockets. This means the advice they give might sound great, but it's not always the best for you. It's like they're trained to turn every bit of advice into a sales pitch. So, when your bank suggests something or offers a new product, don't just go for it. Stop, think about it, and see how it stacks up against other choices out there. Ask yourself, is this really good for me, or is it just good for the bank's profits? Remember, we're talking about your money and your future. Make choices that are right for you. Don't get swept away by flashy deals and smooth talk. Do your research. In the money world, the best move is the one that lets you sleep soundly, knowing your finances are safe in your own hands. The rich get a break. Here's a strange but true fact about banks. The more money you have, the less they charge you. Sounds backwards, right? You'd think everyone would be treated equally, but nope. If you're wealthy, banks roll out the red carpet for you. They offer lower interest rates and sweeter deals. Why? They want the rich folks to stick around, do big transactions, and invest a lot. It's kind of unfair, to be honest. People who aren't as rich end up paying more for the same banking services. This just makes rich people richer, and those who aren't as wealthy have a harder time. The more money you have in the bank, the easier and cheaper it is to handle your cash. Not really fair, is it? It's like banks have their favorites, giving the wealthy a fast track while the rest wait their turn. So, banks sort of help the rich get even richer, making the gap between the rich and not so rich even wider. Banks. Not the best for growing your money. A lot of folks think banks are great for investing their money, but to be honest, that's not really the case anymore. In the old days, saving your money in a bank to earn interest was a smart move. But now, not so much. Money's value has changed, and the interest from banks is really low, almost nothing. Think of banks more as a safe place for your money, not a place to make it grow. But if you still want to make some money with banks, there's another way. What about buying shares in the banks? Yes, instead of just saving your money there, you can own a part of the bank. Big banks often pay dividends to their shareholders, and that can sometimes be more profitable than a regular savings account. It's like playing a different role in the banking world. You might not be super rich, but you can still get a share of the bank's profits. Who owns the big central banks? All right, who really owns huge central banks like the Federal Reserve? This one's a bit tricky. It's not the government, even if a lot of people think so. It's actually a bunch of private banks. That's right. These banks each own a part of the central bank. It's kind of like the Federal Reserve is a club, and the member banks own it. This setup makes you think, doesn't it? How independent can a central bank be if it's owned by other banks? Can they really handle our country's money without any bias? Understanding who controls these banks is really important. It shows us where the financial power is and how it's used. Like, who decides on big economic issues, and can we trust them to be fair? This is a huge deal because these central banks have a lot of power. They make decisions about everything from prices to how easy it is to get a loan. Knowing who's in charge and making these decisions helps us understand how money works and affects our lives. And there it is. 5 banking secrets that put together the finance puzzle. We've talked about everything from how every dollar is actually debt to why rich people get better banking deals. Makes more sense now, right? The banking world is more than just saving and spending. It's a big game of power and influence. Did you find this look behind banking helpful? Hit that like button to show some love. And don't forget to subscribe. Join us for more mind-blowing stuff. See you next time. Until then, keep being smart and curious.